Do you remember the time when was on a tall ship and it was a rough weather and a very scary experience? Well, guess what? Fast forward 2 months and I was back. As always, traveling there was not very smooth. I arrived to Madrid at 10 and wanted to take a taxi to my hotel, but the taxi driver arrived to the other side of the airport and we just couldn't find each other. The taxi driver didn't speak any English, I didn't speak any Spanish, and then the taxi just left. There was still a bus going, so I decided to take a chance with the bus, and I asked the bus driver if he's going to the specific bus stop where I need to go, and he was like, "Si, si." But then I realized that the bus was not going there, and the passenger responded that there is a festival in the city and the bus route has changed. So it was already midnight and I was in the middle of Madrid and I was nowhere near my hotel. Luckily, the passenger was so kind and led me towards my hotel because she was going in the same direction, and I still needed to have a shower, and I had to wake up at 4 because my plane went at 6 and it was just not sleep at all. After 2 planes, I also had to take a train. I bought the ticket from Ticket Machine for the station where I needed to go, but then the controller said that I have to get off the train because my ticket wasn't right, and they didn't speak any English, but luckily there was a passenger who could translate Spanish for me, and I asked to buy a new ticket because I didn't want to get off in the next random station, so luckily eventually I could buy a new ticket and stay on the train. After all these incidents with the train, taxi and bus, I did not want to take a risk with the bus anymore, so I decided to take a long morning walk. It was a very good decision. It was Sunday morning, beautiful weather, families were having breakfast together, having churros. I was also looking for a breakfast, but I'm really sorry for the Spanish-speaking people, I did not want to have churros. So I found a grocery store, had a nice breakfast at the fontaine. After the exhaustive journey, I was finally in Cadiz, a lovely town in southern Spain. There was a lovely beach, we went swimming, I shopped some earrings and had good meals with my old and new friends. We didn't rush leaving the harbor and spent 2 days there, but as soon as we set the sails, the weather turned bad. Again. We made fun about how the weather turns bad every time as soon as I'm on board. Although it wasn't planned for our route, we passed through Gibraltar briefly to tank for cheap fuel. We spent just an hour there and we couldn't look around much, but it's still great to say that, I have been there. In addition to the stormy beginning, we did not have the most fortunate start for the journey. One of our participants fell into an ear infection and we had to turn back to take him to see the doctor because for the next 3 days we couldn't see a doctor anymore, and our captain was afraid that if it would become worse then he couldn't get any help. So we just had to go back for like a night. But then the adventure continued and we had some very special visitors.
For the show!
Yes.
Oh my god!
In addition, our officer was currently enrolled into Ocean Yachtmaster course and he had to practice sextant navigation, so we had a lesson about celestine navigation with him, just me and him, no one else was interested, but I could hold the sextant and he explained me all the calculations which were so complicated, but it was really cool to practice all that. When the sea was calm, I took the opportunity and climbed the mast in the middle of the ocean. What an experience it was. But then one more incident happened. One of our officers' finger was slammed between the toilet door during a wavy weather, and the toilet door is quite heavy, so his finger broke. I found him in the toilet being pale in the face when I finished my night watch, and there was another watch leader and one of the participants helping him. Luckily, the participant was nurse, so she could make him an emergency splint and the tetanus vaccine, which we also luckily had on board. But after this, we had to speed up, and we could only sail with engine, unfortunately, because we had to really take him to the hospital. But it was a 2 days wait to see the doctor. Luckily, the weather was in our favor at last. We had downwinds, so we were setting the topsail, and this took us to our destination quite fast. Once again, I have to say that I met amazing people on board and I made very good friends. With some of them we are still in touch until today, which is 2 years from now, and with one of them we became watch leaders together in the next season. After we left the ship, we had a marvelous dinner together, which was funny because none of us had actually proper clothes for dining out in such a restaurant, so who was wearing their best t-shirt and just things that were not matching with each other. That was quite funny. And then in the end I just spent 2 days in Gran Canaria on my own, visited a couple of cities. I have to say, in the end it was a very amazing journey. Finally, it was time to go home, but as always, traveling back home was quite uncomfortable. I had to spend the night in Milan airport, and that was the sleeping situation. But there was some pretty cool art made of plastic. That was enjoyable. Thank you for your time. If you like the video, please like and subscribe. The usual stuff.